Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Sargent. This is their part number 808 in a 2 3/8 is what this is. This is an extended lip strike, and in the world of architectural hardware, as you're calculating how many hinges to use on a door or how much pounds of force you need to set your closer body to based on the width and the weight, so too must the lip length be calculated. And it's something that's really not done or thought about very often, but you definitely need to calculate that. This is 2 3/8. Strike lips are measured from the center line of the hole to the edge of the lip. Just to give you a couple of other basic dimensional properties, this is 4 7/8 tall, typical. It's going to be 1¼ inch over here. The overall height of the lip itself, it's about 3 3/8. That is a 32D finish, which means it's two things. It's made of stainless steel and that it is in a brushed finish. And the material thickness is 0.093, so about the same thickness as a residential hinge. Now, what exactly would you use this for? Let's talk about that now. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Now, the lip calculation needs to be thought about when you're doing a lock set. In most instances, you can get away with not thinking about it, meaning the thought doesn't occur to you. I know most times it doesn't to me when it is a typical knockdown drywall frame over partition wall. There's no trim or casing or unusual wall, applied casing to the wall, or there's not an unusual inset. Nothing's happening in the door opening that makes me say to myself, wait a minute, what about the lip length? The 1¼ inch, 1 3/16 that a lock will already be supplied with is going to work just fine. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best lip length for the application, but that Swiss Army knife of lip lengths usually works all the time, and you don't have to think about it. Well, in this case, and in others, this client literally has a 2 3/4 inch thick door where the lock is offset to the push side of the door thickness. Said more simply, it's an 1 3/4 inch thick door with a standard lock installed into it, except there's 1 inch of material that's been added to the outside face. And that requires the lock be completely customized. And in fact, we supplied a Sargent 11-line lock, unequally extended, exactly as I have described. They neglected to put the lip length in the box that we specified, and they had to send that separately. So here it is. That's all fine. That's no. In this case, it actually turned out well because it was for the client. It was replacing an existing lock, and they weren't going to change the strike plate anyway. But since the client paid for the strike and we ship to them about once a month, we'll throw this in the next shipment. So the 2 3/8 is basically 1 inch greater than standard. What was tricky with the extended lip length is Sargent makes these available in 2 1/8 or 2 3/8 and then other sizes, but not including 2 1/4, which I thought, okay, they should be able to provide that, but they don't have it listed. So rather than going too small, we opted for a little bit too large. The 2 1/8 would likely have worked, but that return lip back here may not have allowed the strike to sit completely flat in the frame preparation. So in this instance, where it's literally a 4-foot wide corridor going to maybe a 5-foot wide corridor going to a 3'6" door, a stairwell where there's no cross traffic, and that door is a right-hand reverse, and you don't really have an opportunity at all to ever come in contact with the projecting lip length. If you had that same door, but then you had cross traffic going back and forth, it would be more of an issue as you're walking down the hallway. You don't want to hit the lip of the strike, the projecting hinges, the lip length. You crack the crown of your watch on that kind of stuff, and you want to minimize the projecting hardware. There's no cross corridor traffic at all, so it was okay. Not really. It's not going to be a botheration, and frankly, the client won't even notice it. And that's what this is about. That's where you will use this. You're going to think about extended lip strikes in standard installations where there's nothing unusual about the inset or the wall treatment, except that you've got an unusually thick door. Okay, so when you have a door thickness that's odd, whether the lock is in the center of that door thickness, or it's offset or biased to one side or the other. You've got to think about the cylinder length, the thumb turn length if there is one, the length of the screws, the length of the spindles, the length of the lip. Depending on the lock being extended on one side versus the other, you'll do certain things to one side and not those same things if it's extended on the other side. For instance, we need an extended lip strike on this project because the lock is biased towards the push side. This is a right-hand reverse door. Okay, it's 1 inch further in than what it would normally be. Okay, on the access side or the pull side. In your mind's eye, you can say to yourself, yeah, you're going to need an extended lip strike. Now, in that same scenario, don't change anything in your head, except now the door swings in. Lock is still biased towards what would be now the pull side. You don't need a longer lip length for that at all. You need a standard lip length is what you'd need, because that lock isn't biased towards, the lock is in the exact position where it needs to be. Now, what you'll need to do is you're going to need to, of course, center the strike prep in the frame to account for the fact that you've got a 2 3/4 thick door. You've probably got a 2 15/16 rabbet, but that lock is biased towards the pull side. So you're not going to install that strike up close to the stop face. You've got to, center the strike hole basically with the latch, and you're going to have more room left over before you get to the stop than you normally would. That's just a function of the fact that you've got a thicker door, but more so because the lock's not centered. So when you think that stuff through, you realize, oh yes, that's what's affected. And one very helpful thing to recommend is to look at the installation instructions of the lock, and it will help you understand what parts need to change. Again, the length of your mortise cylinder. If this was a right-hand door and not a right-hand reverse, pardon me, doesn't matter. He needs a longer cylinder. This is an 11-line cylindrical lock, so it doesn't matter. I'm now speaking in terms of mortise locks. You're going to extend that cylindrical lock out unusually. When you have a mortise lock, you're going to need, in this instance, you're going to need a longer cylinder. You're going to need a longer spindle. You're going to need to probably have longer mounting posts. You'll need that extended lip strike. But if there was a thumb turn on the inside, you would just use a standard length thumb turn. You wouldn't need the spindle any longer because it's biased towards that side. If you were to reverse that in the sense that I was saying earlier about it being in-swing, you still need a longer spindle, but you don't need a longer strike. You're still going to need a longer cylinder length, etc. Okay. Let's switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at some of the supporting documentation. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Here's the item that we are looking at. Let's take a look at some photographs that we have. There's the strike. It did not ship with any fasteners, and that's okay in this instance because the fasteners were indeed included with the original shipment, with the standard strike, the 1 1/4 lip length strike. And by the way, that would be in Sargent speak a 28. If you see a 28 that precedes an 11-line or a 10-line stock number, that just means the strike, and then you can define the lip length. So my order to the manufacturer was 28 2 3/8, but they just missed it. There it is outside of the packaging. A couple of different views of it. That's the back side. We happen to have a cut sheet here of their 28 option or their 808 strikes. Dimensional properties. Furnished with 1 1/4 standard. It's a curved lip strike. These are the lip lengths available. 1 3/8 to 2 7/8 in 1/4 inch increments only. So I got to 1 5/8, 1 7/8, 2 1/8, 2 3/8, 2 5/8, 2 7/8. So there you go. 28 option is how you call it out. You can order the strikes separately, which is what this is. 808 finish and lip length. I would detail that 808 lip length, then finish, and then fasteners, or fasteners, then finish. You can order the wrought box strike as well, should you need it. And if it's a wood frame or a knockdown drywall frame, yes, you're going to want the box strike, the strike box behind the strike itself. Finishes that it's available in polished brass, antique brass, satin bronze, oil rub bronze, powder coated oil rub bronze, satin nickel, black, polished stainless steel, satin stainless steel. There is a link below this video, as seen here, to the manufacturer's page in our site, and from there you can pull up not only all of the Sargent products we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here. There's also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the current full product catalog. And speaking of product catalogs, I have a number of them here. That are quite old, 1877, 1901, 1922. If you wanted to see what Sargent was making 125 years ago, or 90 years ago, here you go. Have at it. We do make a hobby of it, collecting and archiving these old catalogs. It's nice to be able to look back in time for fun, really, but there are times when a client will email me a photograph of a Sargent door closer, which frankly would have been called a potbelly. You ever heard that term? I don't know if it'll be in this catalog. You ever heard the term potbelly door closer? There's been times I've been able to pull up the Sargent catalog and find, a couple of times, find the exact door closer from within a year or two of when the client believes it was built. Here's a neat little page on pin tumblers. Neat. Anyway, you could search through Cremone bolts are here. These are still made today. Sargent doesn't make Cremone bolts anymore, but other companies do. That's what a Cremone bolt does. Really a very elegant way to secure one door in a pair or both doors in a pair. You can have trim on the outside of this material. Fun to be able to look back in time. It's also fun to be able to watch movies that are, from the 1920s or 30s and just study in the background the type of hardware that they have installed. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So here's your 808 strike, the sizes mentioned earlier. If you have a need for a strike lip length that's other than what Sargent makes available, reach out to us. We may be able to help you with that. They have exceptional tech support to them. For that, I say thank you very much. There are times when you call tech support and the person you're speaking to can't answer the question, but they're able to tell you, you need to speak to so-and-so. Turns out so-and-so has forgotten more about the question than most people have ever learned, and just exceptional technical support. I just asked for replacement top rod assembly for a Sargent 7000 series multi-point lock. Damage on the job site, or they lost parts, and the person I spoke to could have been the person that patented the material. She possessed such an expert knowledge over the subject matter that it was astonishing. To her, for that, I say thank you. Any questions on the 808 strike or any other Sargent product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.